So we are back with another episode of Dice It Up. Ice is busy in a camp in Florida, but she's back in the States, like we said last episode. And I'm joined by an incredible guest. Been following her for years. She used to be at SB Nation. She's a former Duke Blue Devil. Was better than JJ Redick. Now she works for The Athletic covering women's basketball. You can find all her stuff there and on Twitter. She's amazing. Sabreena Merchant, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Yeah,
the very, very flattering introduction.
yeah, I mean, I just gotta throw out JJ Redick. Maybe we should get him on the pod at some point. Were you at school with him at the same time or no?
No, he's a little bit
Oh,
older than me.
okay. Yeah. I mean, I just remember him shaping my formative years of basketball. Like, oh my God, I'm half white. I could be that. Then I realized, like, I'm not nowhere near that good.
Well, I guess you
But
just have to follow the media superstar part of his life. That's the one.
yeah, I guess I'm more so just I see his ads on DraftKings where he's just standing there looking so stoic, and he's telling you what plays to pick, and I'm like, JJ, weird, okay. Um, is it true that he got interviewed for a coaching job or something? Like,
Yeah. He was interviewed for, I think, the Raptors coaching job.
wild.
Yeah.
I don't see it, but we're not here to talk about men. We're here to talk about the WNBA, and because we're 3 weeks into the season, 20% of the way in, it feels good to kind of have a litmus test of where teams are at. And I definitely can speak my mind and be a hater a lot of the times, but I definitely want to get your thoughts on who's kind of exceeded your expectations so far.
Yeah, so I would say first things first, the Seattle Storm have exceeded my expectations, which I realize is a weird take considering they're 2-7 and just got absolutely clobbered by the Aces last night. But I legitimately thought this was going to be one of the worst teams I was going to have to watch over the last 10 years of WNBA basketball, just looking at their roster. And maybe that was a little harsh, but
Sure.
now that they're doing, the small lineup and they're playing Jordan Horston at the 4 and just really leaning into that pace and transition offense and being super aggressive and disruptive on defense. Again, this all does not include how they played against the Aces last night, other than like the first 15 minutes. But basically, you put them against a team not named Las Vegas, and they're competitive, and that's not something I was expecting. So yeah, number one, Seattle Storm.
Good I mean, did single digits in I think every game, and they should have beat Washington had they not started off awful. The second time they played them, and the first time they played them, they didn't have Joe Lloyd. Right. They still came within 6. I do love some of those pieces. Dojkic, am I pronouncing it right? I'm not sure.
Yeah, Dojkic, they call her Evie there, which honestly, Noelle Quinn started talking about her at yesterday's press conference, and it took me like 6 minutes to figure out who she was talking about.
Evie. Wow. Okay.
Evie, yeah.
All right. I dig it. Yeah, it was it. I when you have that good of a last name, it's hard to even like gather the first name.
Yeah.
There's a guy at ESPN who texted me yesterday. It was like, "Who's this Dojkic girl?" And I was like, I guess he was on the Aces last night. In the first half, looked a little testy until the last 3 minutes. And also, I do want to, before I forget, like Becky did not need to be playing Kelsey, Candace, Chelsea in the fourth quarter so late. I understand getting some chemistry with some of the bench players, but like it just felt a little personal.
I don't know that it's personal. Like you said, they legitimately only have 10 players.
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
10 healthy players, and they're not going to be using like Sydney Colson.
I was literally about to bring her up.
Let her big minutes, right? So they're just
cardio.
They're just trying to make a rotation out of those 9 players, and I think it's fair. It's not like they were, running it up or like deliberately pushing the pace by any means. It's 10 games into the season. You kind of just have to let people like if she had like called a challenge in the fourth quarter, I think we could have gotten in her face about it.
You're right. Thank you for setting expectations. I mean, God forbid anyone gets hurt. That I'm always thinking 10 steps forward. I would be mad if I was heavily invested in the Aces, but yeah, I mean, it does make sense. And Raquana Williams isn't playing. Yeah, they have a lot. Yeah, I guess I've never been the biggest fan of Mercedes Russell, and seeing Jordan Horston expand not only the spacing of that
Mhm.
team, but um, all the reps she's going to get is going to be
Right.
extremely beneficial for her development. So I'm with it. And I mean, Jewel, who doesn't love Jewel? So
Who doesn't love Jewel? Yeah.
I mean
I'm
the
worried
Jade,
about the scoring chase though. It's coming down in a hurry.
the what?
The scoring chase. She's not going to get it. The shots are just going to be
Yeah,
too inefficient. Like, God
yeah,
bless, Jade Melbourne and Toykic for trying to get her the ball as much as possible, but it's not going to happen.
yeah. You're not going to be guarded by Kelsey Plum and getting post ups. That was just
Yeah.
a wild look last night. Yeah, we are recording this on Friday, June 16th. Um, After the Aces game, the Wild Dream Sun game, that was nuts, and the Fever game winner. Love them. I do want to get your takes on the Fever.
Mhm.
I was calling for playoffs. I have actual money invested on them making the playoffs, money invested on them winning at least 8 games.
I'm
And I
sorry, at
think,
least 8 games that there was money on that?
yeah, their line was at 7.5 at
Seven
win.
and a half.
I know, and there's 40 games. It's like
Oh my gosh.
I put the most possible, like whatever they limited me to, I put
Mhm.
down, um, which is unfortunate. I would love to have bet more, and in hindsight, I should have just bet 10.5 like it was everywhere else. But I like to shop. So one, how, did you expect this from Aaliyah to be this polished already? And I know she's had some games where she's in foul trouble and then put up some of the great
Mhm.
numbers, but some of these moments that she's having at the end of games, getting huge boards, getting putbacks, blocks, just stuff that I definitely wouldn't expect from a rookie.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought her positioning was really good in college, and just the fact that there were 30,000 people in the paint at all times kind of obscured the fact that
Uh,
she could score. Like, I don't want to just parrot Dawn Staley's words, but there was a lot
yeah,
of junk being thrown at her at South Carolina, and it was kind of hard to see, like, through the forest, like, because there was just a lot of bodies being thrown at her all the time. And I didn't expect her to be like, posting up Elizabeth Williams and winning that matchup. Like, that is something that, first of all, Indiana Chicago, two of the best games of the season already.
yeah,
I don't know if this is turning into like a nice little Midwest rivalry or if we can count on this later, but let's sign me up for as many of those as possible. But yeah, I mean, I expected Aaliyah to have more offense than she did in college, especially just because she was going to get the ball a lot more. Which why wasn't she getting the ball more? It's an entirely different question for South Carolina. But to be doing this against like legitimately good defensive centers, I am blown away. And like the putback that she had at the end against Chicago last night, is that the
mhm.
one that put them up two before Dana Evans tied the game again? I can't remember the exact sequence of events,
No,
but
I mean it was Nalissa had it last night, but in the first
okay.
game, it would have been a game winner.
Oh, right, right.
Um, yeah, I mean those games are so similar. And
Yeah.
then like I want to say the scores were almost exactly similar too.
Yeah, I think we kind of all expected Aaliyah to be more of a force defensively to begin with, and like
Same.
the points in the paint that Indiana is allowing this year versus last is dramatically different. I don't attribute that entirely to Aaliyah because I also think Queen Egg was a pretty good defensive center, and just in her second year, having 40 minutes of good defense at the center position is
Mhm.
just really underrated. I don't think a lot of teams have just that capability. Uh, but yeah, I don't really know what to say about Aaliyah. Like she came in with this number one hype. I mean, I don't think anyone thought she was going to be Asia Wilson good as number one pick, which I think is just the most obvious comparison because of the South Carolina
Mhm.
connection. But like she's already an all-star consideration. I'm not counting the fan vote. I'm just saying like because of her production, and she legitimately makes a difference when she's on the court. I know the on-offs don't look great because I don't entirely know what Chrissy Side's bench rotation is from one night to another. So
Yeah.
it's a little weird to try to navigate. But like she's a force that you have to reckon with already on the block. And if you're already thinking about throwing doubles at her this early in her career, like that's wild.
Yeah. It's kind of giving me goosebumps because I don't want to say I was a hater by any means.
Mhm.
I just had significant doubts. Game one, I bet her points under. So we're not going
Yeah.
to see this yet. um, and she continues to defy expectations. She makes plays that I wouldn't expect a center to make, let alone a
Heel
rookie
was
center.
really good.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I just love. It feels like the team just has a built-in chemistry already that she is heavily involved in.
Mhm.
Like throwing backdoor passes to Grace Berger. Like I just I find it impossible to not root for this team.
Mhm.
And not I would miss a Liberty game to watch some Fever games at this point. So, I mean, depending on who the Liberty play, you know what I
Sure.
mean. Uh, and I'm a season ticket holder. I support the Libs, but gosh, I love it. Kelsey Mitchell is somewhat probably not producing at the same level, but
Mhm.
you know what you're gonna get with her. Erica Wheeler's been surprising to me. Like I always kind of felt like it was a very inefficient type of player, Westbrook
Mhm.
ish, but been making really clutch plays. I gotta look at some clutch stats for Indiana. I know you wrote about Chicago's clutch stats because
Mhm.
I feel like those two teams are just in close games
All the
90%
time.
of the time.
Yeah. There's
So,
just no separation whatsoever.
and as somebody who bets on the Fever a lot, it's so stressful. I gotta do some better things for my health with that. Uh, but I'm trying to think of any other takeaways I have from them or what I would like to see
I would like to see
moving
more
forward.
Grace Berger because
Mm,
this is not the season, right? Like maybe you'll make the
sure,
playoffs this year. I don't know if that's the ideal outcome to make the playoffs because then again, who knows who's actually going to come out in this year's draft? Like I think you'll get enough good players to where you'll want a lottery pick, but Erica Wheeler is not the point guard of the future. Like she must have the greatest personality in the WNBA because teams just keep coming after her over and over again. And like for 3 quarters, I'm watching her and I'm just like, give me a rookie point guard. Like there's other things that
yeah,
we could do here. But then she's got a nice settling presence at the end of games. I think she does kind of just like act as the adult in the room, and you do need that. Like there are a lot of very young players on the Fever, and Kelsey Mitchell is, even though she's very clearly the best player on Indiana still, like she's not the vocal like
yeah,
get your shit together person like Erica Wheeler is.
yeah. I mean, and it's needed. Every team needs that, but especially those young players. So,
Mhm.
so I get it. I do want to talk about a player that you are familiar with based on our previous conversations,
Mhm.
because I think we have to mention what happened last night. And I was sad that Indiana was playing the villain in the situation, but what Marina Mabry did last night, I like. Those games where someone is just in the zone
Mhm.
and they're going against your team, and whatever they put up, it's like that's in.
Cash in.
I had zero doubts about every shot she put up um, in that second half. The third quarter was a piece of art, and I didn't expect this team to be a 3-point shooting team at all. I thought it was just
Mhm.
a ton of mid range queens, and that's fine. But what they're getting from her and Dana, and Kaz shoot the ball pretty well this year too.
Mhm.
I do want to give her flowers and say that she's worth every penny.
I will say she's worth every penny that they gave her. The picks, still not
Yeah,
convinced.
yeah, it sounds like this upcoming draft is any good,
It's the
right?
2025 swap. It's the 2025
Oh,
swap. Yeah.
yeah. Well, mm, yeah. I mean, I
Like
don't know. Then again,
if you swap your way out of the number one pick in the 2025 draft, that is unconscionable. Okay. I'm going to reserve judgment until it actually happens. But as long as that possibility is on the table, I'm still anti whatever, machinations have to go through to make that sign and trade happen. Because like I've talked to other front offices who were in the Mabry business and they were just floored by what Chicago did to get her. And I
I
love
mean,
Mabry. Very, very
yeah,
big Marina Mabry fan, but it was a lot.
yeah, Mayor of Mabry Island, Sabrina
Mhm.
Merchant,
Yep,
and
that's the one.
but I mean, a lot of people were. I mean, I think she was trending last night. Should have been. Um, I do see Chicago hitting a wall at some point, though.
Mhm.
I don't think this style of play is sustainable. It just feels like a fun team, but they have to work so hard. And it looked fluid last night, but that's against a lot of young defenders, probably not the best defenders. Poor
Mhm.
Maya Caldwell was just getting dragged by Marina last night.
Yeah.
But I do think they need to. I mean, Izzy's coming back at some point, maybe this year, so that'll probably help to just add some balance. Um, but I was a big Chicago hater coming into the year. Definitely exceeded my expectations. So flowers to Marina and the crew. Wintrust is. It looks like good vibes in there.
Yeah, I do think that they need a little bit more depth to be playing the style that they are. It's just a little too frenetic defensively to subsist on like a 6.5 player rotation. Like, what does
Yeah.
Taylor Soule have to do to get on the court when you're playing 6 players? Like, I think she could have helped. But
Yeah. Robin Parks isn't going to start the game 3 from 3 every time either.
honestly, not a bad 3-point shooter this season, Robin Parks.
No,
There's been a couple
amazing.
games where you look at it and it's like, oh, I think she hit 3 threes against the Liberty in that
She did.
comeback when they had in New York.
But when you have, I mean, Dana's in that same mood too, of just like coming in off the bench and just like exudes confidence. It's fun. But I want to get to the bad. I
Okay.
love being a hater, and there's no one I've hated more on this year than the Washington Mystics, who play in it's 1:23 now. They play in like 5 hours against probably Brittany Grinerless Phoenix Mercury.
Yep.
And I do think there's a chance they could still lose this game. I really do.
No.
I really do. I really do. I just like.
Isn't it in Washington?
It is. All the way across the country. You trip out for a second? We good?
Yeah, we're back. Sorry.
My bad.
Wi-Fi can't really do anything about it.
I think it might be me too.
Okay.
Yeah, so
you were saying you think that the Mystics could still lose against the Brittany Grinerless?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe, and I won't cut this.
Maybe that's why the feed should
have I'm not wagering any money on this game at all outside of the under. I think it's going to be disgusting. But and Natasha Cloud may not play, I guess, is a recent update. So
oh, okay.
Yeah, questionable with an ankle injury. Outside of like not having consistent shooters, no backup point guard, and just the weirdest flow on offense, not getting into the post enough. I could go on and on, but what is your right now, from what you've watched, the biggest problem with the Washington Mystics?
I mean, can I just say offense? Like, I think that's just all encompassing.
Everything, yeah.
So I mean, cards on the table, I was pretty high on the Mystics coming into the season. I thought they were going to finish with a better record than the Liberty just because they had all the continuity, and this was a team that just really executed well last year. Like, I didn't think their ceiling was particularly high, but you get Elena on the court, just really hard guard. Shakira's getting better, and then just like 3 shooters around them or 3 theoretical shooters around them. Like, it's not a bad template. The problem is that none of those players are actually shooters. They walk the ball up the court most of the time. There's no transition whatsoever. I thought Sykes was going to help with that.
Yeah.
He's like very minimally affected that. It's not really anything. Ariel Atkins, like I've asked multiple Washington Mystics beat writers if she's suffering from some nagging injuries that they haven't told us about, because she doesn't look anything close to the player she was last year. Like, there's no burst, there's no lift. Like, she's not hitting a damn thing. And even like on the defensive end, she's not making an impact like as a playmaker. So they can't get out in transition because they're just not like forcing enough turnovers. It's just ugly. It's really, really ugly. And I probably just underestimated the coaching change, right? Like, Mike Thibault has had Eric on his staff for 10 years, been around for a very long time. All the players hyped him up, adored him, but like, maybe it's a bad thing when your coaching search only involves the son of the guy who just left. Maybe the process should have cast a wider net.
Yeah. I'm doing this like funny tier image for next week.
Oh yeah. Last one was great.
I created a category just called, or a tier just called Kendall Roy. And it's Kendall and him. Kendall, him, and Sophie. So I gotta put
Sophie
Sophie
picked
in.
up a little bit this week, a little bit.
Sophie looks good. I think she cares. Like
Oh yeah,
she just hoops and off court, whatever. But yeah, poor
whatever.
Kendall Tebow. God, I feel bad for the things I'm saying, but I don't see a confident coach out there. I see someone who has like the Eli Manning face sometimes, like
Mhm.
just the there just seems to be a disconnect. And I mean, reading a lot of like what Kareem Copeland tweets from like quotes from players about practice. I don't see that anywhere else. I haven't seen that in years about practices having lack of focus, people not locking in, uh, having to reset. It's like you're professional athletes. A lot of you have played together.
Mhm.
Like you said, the continuity.
A
This should
lot of
not.
you play together.
Yeah, it's not like you know.
That's why
Yeah,
Tiana Hawkins and like Shakira Cribber and everybody are on this roster because you've all played together. Which I mean, I just want to say this here before we get to further Mystics
sure.
talk. The number of teams that had an opportunity to sign a hardship big that was not Emily Engstler. What is going on? I don't get it. Please play
Um,
her as Cheryl Reeve.
yeah. Also, put Odyssey Sims on this team. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
like the production from that bench is good for
Terrific.
maybe 4 minutes a game, and it's Lee Mung and maybe Tiana Hawkins. Maisha Hines Allen is probably still coming back from injury. Like,
Mhm.
so I'll give her some slack, but it's not looking great. A lot of turnovers. Um,
Christy Tolliver just didn't have it anymore.
she has it when I'm betting against her. She scares me. Like
Yeah.
if I bet on her for 2 games and like I think she was 0 for 8. Mystics have covered one spread, and that was without Joel Lloyd. Um, or no, that was when Joel Lloyd came back. They barely covered a spread. So one game since they beat the Liberty.
Jesus.
Of all their games, every single one has gone under. Credit to their defense, but that also means you can't score. They're a couple shots away. Them and like it's the same thing with the Fever. Fever like a few plays away from being like fourth in standings, and Mystics are a few plays away from being like
11th.
10th.
Yeah.
So it's I would be I with where the expectations they probably set on themselves are. They're probably already pressing like some sort of panic button.
Mhm.
Not I'm sure they're professionals. They don't really panic, but they know something's off. You can read it in the body language. Uh, yeah, I mean I never prey on anyone's downfall,
Mhm.
but uh, I sold all my stock. I tweeted it. I sold it all. I want nothing to do with the Mystics. Couldn't pay me to bet on them anymore.
Yeah, it's just like you said, the vibes are off. It's not a it doesn't look like a fun hang. And
No.
I mean they all wanted to play with each other again, right? So I don't get entirely what has happened there, but there's just too much talent, honestly, for me to
Yeah.
think he's gonna last all year. And maybe, rookie head coach just got to give him some time to figure it
Yeah.
out. But yeah, the whole second place in WNBA standings, I feel silly about that. This is not a Commissioner's Cup team.
Um, yeah, I mean, like, and haven't even talked about how great Shakira's been. Like, phenomenal.
Mhm.
Like, you know, jury's out on who won the Ryan Howard trade still, in my opinion. Like, I have no
Mhm.
idea who's going to be better in 5 years, but because I see flashes from both. But right now, development wise, I think I can see more from Shakira. So I just feel like a lot of potential could be wasted on an awesome year where you finally have one of the premier players of this league's history healthy for a full year,
Right.
a blossoming sophomore, um, a point guard who says they're a shooter, and
Right.
yeah. Um, but yeah, moving on from the Mystics, I,
I mean, it's the
I
disappointment bowl tonight, right?
yeah. So I mean, it's like wow, like directly into. I mean, I've said stuff about Vanessa too. She may or may not be. She was on the last graphic in Deep Sigh, but I get awful vibes from this team. awful.
When was the last time we got good vibes from a Phoenix team?
That's true, and it's not their fault. I mean, I don't mean to laugh. It's just like God. I mean, she specifically, like horrible hand she's been dealt.
Correct.
But I just don't. I don't know how they won some of the games they won last year. I don't know how they made the playoffs.
Skylar.
Yeah. So no credit to Vanessa. I'm so scared for what they're going to look like tonight without Brittany on the court. We saw it for a half against Seattle, and I mean that was something. It felt like it was Sophie and Shug Sutton just hanging out, playing, and everybody else watching.
Sophie and Shug Sutton hanging out.
No, I mean Michaela's doing a little bit better.
No. I mean, they played him even in the second half without BJ. Like it wasn't horrible. I think obviously BG's having a great season. Offensively, production has been really good. She's one of two good defensive players on this team, along with Brianna Turner. And the fact that
one starter now.
Yeah, the fact that Brianna Turner is also a good defensive player. Like I just think BG is kind of more replaceable than like if Sophie Cunningham is out for a game. Because at least you have a player manning the middle who is a very good defensive center, and you just lean into that. 4 shooters around her will just chuck up as many threes as possible and run. That's what Phoenix did last year. That's what they did in the bubble after BG left. I mean, there's at least a theory to it. It just relies on like Sophie hitting a lot of shots and hitting a lot of shots and Michaela hitting a lot. And like that's not unreasonable. Like they can hit shots. But what's weird is Phoenix has shot the ball incredibly well this year, and they still lose all of these games because one, Diana has been terrible, but they don't rebound the ball, which honestly BG doesn't help with that much. They don't hold on to the ball; like they just turn it over all the time, and their transition defense is the worst thing I've ever seen. It's so bad because every time they turn the ball over, it's like, oh, DT's complaining to the refs, so we're already down 5.
I mean, I maybe she's earned the right to not ever get back on defense, and like, It's always funny when I see tweets about like, oh, look at this Diana Taurasi block. It's like, why was she even there? Like she's so out of position. But the one thing about the replacement of BG with Brianna Turner is like BG is going on the free throw line more than anybody in the league. Which, God, the refs, a lot of pity calls, I guess. I just got to say it. Some of these fouls are not fouls, but I digress. I think Turner's only taken 2 shots this year, or made 2 shots.
Yeah, it's like I used to joke about her offensive just aggression or lack thereof, but it's become a real problem.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be able to be serviceable. I mean, like, I think Clint Capella back when he was no one, Harden got him to do one thing. People who listen know that I still fanboy out over James and the Wonder Years.
In the back.
Yeah. But like Clint was, I mean, Harden was able to make players who didn't really have anything, just put them in a right place to score. And she is in the right place a lot of the times. It's just zero awareness to look at the goal and go make something happen. And with what you're getting from everybody else, I don't know. Maybe they need Meg Gustafson to just become the GOAT again,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I believe in her.
To run this lob play with Brianna Turner, and like that was something, the counter scoring. I really do think that they miss her so much, just setting up the offense, organizing things, putting a little bit of pressure on the rim, kind of forcing Turner to like ever think about scoring the ball. They just haven't replaced that. I mean, I like watching Shug. She's not a point guard. I don't think she is. And like you said, it's fun to like just watch her and Sophie hang out, but like they're not doing well in her minutes. I mean, they're not doing well in anybody's minutes, so that's unfair.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I kind of think you just got to go, rangy and like play as many wings as possible and limit Diana's minutes just a little. You know, Caddy Sissoko's been like, okay, I was kind of
Yeah,
surprised she made the
actually.
league, but she's got this one right hand drive that I guess has not been scouted yet because nobody watched USC play last year. I like watching her. She works hard on defense. Nobody else in Phoenix works hard on defense. So, yeah, I mean, I don't expect a lot out of this team. I think, I do think these weekly rankings at The Athletic, I think they're going to
Yeah,
show up 12th this week, depending on what happens
yeah,
in this Washington game. But it's, yeah, I don't really know what the solution is. Unless Skylar decides to come back from maternity leave, which I don't think she is, uh, this is kind of just what this team is going to look like.
yeah. They're missing that. I think they're missing someone who can can do a little creation with size. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say it's her, but what Dearica Hamby looked like against the Wings, I think would be like absolutely perfect on this team. Someone who's competent, can score, and doesn't try to do too much offensively, just takes her moments, and then defensively is not a liability because there's way too much of that happening. So yeah, I'm with you. I think. I mean, we had Cindy Brunson on the show a month ago, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean, she was like, Phoenix never missed playoffs, and I was sitting there looking at the odds, and I was like, God, plus 800 to miss the playoffs. It looks really amazing, but maybe BG is going to be BG. I don't know. Um, but yeah,
It kind of has been BG. Like, that's
yeah,
what's interesting. Yeah.
it's just Diana's not old. Diana, I don't know what Diana is. I mean, that was hard
This,
to watch.
yeah. Yeah. This is also a team that like traditionally does poorly to start the season. So maybe they'll ramp up. But like they also did poorly in Sandy Brondello teams.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to give Vanessa Nygaard grace because I think she did the very best she could with whatever happened last year.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she shouldered as much, of that media responsibility that she did, like she tried to take it away from the players as much as possible. And I think that was really remarkable and to be commended, just the emotional burden she took on last year. But we're like hitting the point where like I have to start figuring out what kind of basketball coach she is. And like all I know is that Kurt Miller runs the same set to free Lexi Brown for like 4 straight threes in one half of a game, and no adjustment has been made. So, like, are the players not listening to her, or is it, I don't know what's happening there.
It's very middle school esque. We're gonna run our 2-3. We're gonna get killed on the boards, but if they miss shots, we're gonna be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's hard to watch, but I digress. We digress. Let's talk about some happy things. I've been wondering your thoughts on this next question for a long time. I asked you like at least 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
and you're like, "You want me to tell you now?" And I was like, "No, I want to wait." And it's been bugging me because I'll read your tweets or your stuff, and I'm like, I don't know if she likes, but I don't want to guess either. So, give me your top, let's say 3 for MVP right now. If there's a close tie for third, that's
Okay.
fine. We could put 4, but would love to hear it.
Yeah. So this is not super interesting, I think,
Yeah.
but
No.
my top 3 are Stewie, Asia, and Jackie Young.
Mm-hmm. So, in your mind, is from a pure just looking at the landscape of how the vote works and media works, a lot of talk about, I mean, I get asked this too, just from a betting perspective, is like, are votes going to be taken away from Asian Jackie or Stewie and I'm like, and like, have you watched this team? She goes 1 for 14 last night and they still, or 2 nights ago, and they still almost win. But I do worry about how much of a burden she has on her already. I mean, obviously Sabreena had those few amazing games, and dealing with a hamstring too. Sabrina's also had some games where she's kind of non-existent.
Yeah, but I think it's trending up.
Yeah,
The last few games, she's figuring it out.
Yeah, and not 100% healthy. I do worry about just how Jonquel's being used, but for MVP purposes, I think I'm with you. It's just hard to look at what Jackie's doing at the consistent basis and how well she's shooting and scoring, and I just I think we've reached the point with Jackie of like, I know I'm getting at least 20 from her, solid defense and hustle plays and just smart plays. It's like she doesn't have too many negative things happen in a game.
No.
Like even Asia got like stuffed by a Z or will have a couple turnovers, but like Jackie is the quietest 20 something point scorer I've seen in the last 5 years, maybe. Trying to think the last person, but it's hard to argue with the numbers she's putting up.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the cannibalizing of votes because Kelsey Plum finished third last year and Asia still won. So I don't think they're really going to get in each other's way. Like the Aces are so good that having two candidates from the team just, I think it's okay just based on their dominance over the rest of the league. I mean, I don't know, like I don't think Asia has been as productive as she was last year just yet, but there's a lot of, season to go. So I'm sure she could easily get back onto the, third MVP in 4 years. And WNBA voters love the best player on the number one seed. It's their favorite thing to pick in terms of MVP. So if the Aces are back on the top line, then, I think it's going to be one of Wilson or insert secondary player here, but probably Asia. And I mean, like you said about Jackie, I think about the 2019 draft a lot because, it was supposed to be the Sabreena draft, right? And then they lose in the Final Four and she decides to come back. And there's like those 4 days of just, well, who's Vegas going to pick now? Like it was supposed to be Sabreena. And, there was the argument for like Arike or Nafisa Collier. And you watch the first couple of years, like after they got drafted. And it was just, why did they take Jackie Young? Like what were they really thinking? And what a difference it has been from WNBA to Becky Hammon. My goodness, nobody has benefited more from that than Jackie Young. And it's just like, obviously, why wouldn't you want a player like this who's 6 feet tall, who can bully any guard you put in front of her, who just relentlessly gets to the paint over and over again, who makes no drama whatsoever, who's shooting 45% from three now, and it looks good every single time. Like I think the only like mistake she made in last night's game was she took a couple pull-up threes in transition that were just like dagger shots, and it's, I mean, she's open, why not?
Yeah.
Like,
it's great.
Yeah, I mean, they've used her to guard Stewie, and like it doesn't look overwhelming, in like past years. I don't know. I think she's like the perfect type of player. Like that's that wing. If this were an NBA team, Jackie Young would be by far the number one. Like everybody wants that player.
Yeah.
But because the WNBA is more like power forward tilted. Like every team's best player is their four. She just doesn't get talked about that way. But she's incredible. She's so good.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think you reminded me that Bill and Beard drafted her number one. Like I think it's a common, like, super easy to forget. Because she just wasn't the household name that some of these players who were drafted number one. Shout out Charlie Collier. But
greatest draft fit of any number one pick, though. I will always give her that.
Yeah, that's a Longhorn. Yeah, shout out to Bill. Great draft pick. Huge. So we got that. I get it with Asia. I do. I had somebody ask me the other day, like, I got a text. It was during the Sky Liberty game from somebody who works at a casino. It was like, I need to move Kalia Copper's MVP odds. And I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't, man. Go look at some stats, and they're not going to finish higher than 4, if that. So, no. But MVP out the way. We're not going to discuss Rookie of the Year. We kind of got into that already. Most Improved Player, which I find very interesting. For me, it's Satu, but I could also see Shakira. You could literally make the argument for Jackie Young again. Which is crazy. And there's somebody else that came to mind that I'm blanking on right now.
Alana Smith.
Yes. Thank you. Oh my God. Yeah. Like I expect her to have bad games all the time. Like just watching like her play, I just don't know how she makes so many plays so consistently. from shooting to defense to passes to finishing. I'm so impressed. But then you watch Satu play, and it's like, okay, like you're close to being a top 5 for MVP.
Yeah, so with Satu, I'm almost of the belief that she's just finally getting to
Healthy.
be used and like is also healthy. Like I don't know what exactly was happening in Dallas the last couple of years. I feel like I've said this on too many occasions to count, but there just wasn't an understanding that this is our best player. We should be
Yeah.
running things through her. And LT has at least figured that part out. Let's just give Satu the ball and let her cook a little. So I think that's fair. I think that's a fair choice. I'm obviously a little biased towards some LA people. I think Jordan Canada's been really improved this year. Yeah. Lexi Brown, I kind of think is more of a role change. She just gets utilized more in the offense, which, I mean, who knew that Kurt Miller was going to be utilizing a 3-point shooter this much in his offense, like to actually space the floor, but you do you, Kurt. But yeah, I think Alana Smith is just, I almost like don't want to pick her because like she's improving off of like nothing. There was no WNBA career before this, whereas Satu like has a meaningful progression in her stats. And I kind of like the idea of jumping from, I mean, she was already an all-star one year.
Yeah.
And she's become an MVP, all WNBA worthy type player. And I'm much more interested in that jump than not in the league to we can play you, So I think Satu is the right pick right now, but there's a lot of time left.
Yeah, I mean, I did place a responsible wager on Jordan Canada to score 20 points tonight. It was like 6-1 odds because of Lexi Brown being out. It's very doable. I have one friend who's been like betting Jordan Canada unders the last few weeks, and he's like, I'm done. I can't. She won't stop scoring. I cannot believe how consistent she's been. I'm waiting for the fall off at some point. It's just not happening.
I mean, we get the turnovers where she tries to do too much, and that's it's going to happen.
But I think she's also earned that right at this point because she's still producing. I also didn't know Lexi scored inside the 3-point line from just watching last year. The Sparks are fun.
Yeah,
most improved team.
Most improved team. No, that's Indiana. Indiana is
That's true. That's true.
Indiana
Vibes
was
overall
unwatchable.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about who were coaches in this league a few years ago. No disrespect to Marion Stanley. She just I don't know how to say it. She gave me the cold shoulder in person one time, and I just tried to tell her good game when they beat New York last year. But that's all good. I don't know what she's doing right now, but she ends up listening to this somehow. Hi, Marion.
Well, Christy Sides and Kurt Miller are just so vastly improved over Carlos Knox and Derek Fisher and Brett Williams.
Derek Fisher. He also made my tier list too for next week. Just a little bonus.
Oh, I really look forward to this.
Yeah, it's great. So I was running out of like a few ideas, and then I have a notes app thing where I store funny stuff I can come up with, but I gotta save it for later. I'm like debating whether to leave a picture making fun of this whole baby Gronk thing in or out, but I think I'm gonna leave it in because it's like, I don't know. It's
topical, apparently.
Half the people on Twitter think that this is serious. And like the first 2 lines probably are, outside of like the dog, and I think I was gonna put Quesarito on there for Jokic.
Big week for the Quesarito.
Yeah. But hey, do want to do one fun question before I let you go. You're only allowed to eat at one fast food restaurant for the rest of your life. Like, which one do you pick?
Well, this is hugely locally biased, but In-N-Out.
Yeah. Whataburger family. All my Texas people, they're so proud of Whataburger versus In-N-Out.
It's a good burger.
They're both great.
Yeah.
And one is significantly cheaper, actually. Economics. So yeah, great. For me, it's No, I can't say Chick-fil-A. I'm working there
I was
right now.
gonna say that
No,
seems like a
can't
conflict
do
of
it.
interest.
Yeah, cannot do it. Yeah, now that that's out of my life,
I'm just always happy after eating a burger. Like I don't know what it is mood wise. It just works.
I've kind of converted to Shake Shack. Being in
Mm.
New York, it's
I could get 3 In-N-Outs for Shake Shack.
dang. Yeah, I mean,
It's really what it is.
there's nothing worse than like getting my receipt from Shake Shack or seeing all the apartments that my wife sends over to me that are definitely out of budget that she thinks that like magically I'm just gonna say yes to, and okay. But anyways, everyone go follow Sabreena. She's amazing on Twitter. She's an amazing writer. Love all her stuff. Also hilarious. So thanks for hanging out, and we'll have to do it again later.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Maybe we can get more of the crew together next time.